Hey, hello, hello. We are in the very last week of the Bad Website Club 10-week boot camp. Y'all, that is so much time. That is an impossible amount of time. And today, the main part of the session today is to answer any questions y'all might have. These might be questions about the last lab you're working on. This might be about stuff we covered way, way back in accessibility in HTML. Or, yeah, so if you have any questions about stuff you're working on, just go ahead and throw them in the chat as we go, because it's often a little bit stressful too. Give me your questions right now. I thought I'd also walk us through a couple of resources. So last session, the folks who were here live, I was really excited to ask you all, what do you think things we might want to learn next could be? And not only did we get some really interesting answers, so maybe JavaScript, maybe version control, but also some really good resources. One thing I wanted to do today is look at Git, which is a type of version control. Um, and I'm not going to be able to teach y'all Git in a session. I bet Carmen probably could, but Git's a reasonably complex sort of system to use. I just wanted to go ahead and take a look at a couple of free resources I especially liked. So the big thing is, any questions, anything you'd like to go back over from the bootcamp, throw them in the chat. Delightful. And let's also, if it's not a bother, I was going to have a look at some of my favorite Git resources. So, if anybody else has a way to describe what Git is and Git does, I'd really love to hear y'all's takes. So, how would you how would you describe Git to someone who had never heard of it before? And for me, this was a lot easier when Flickr existed. Because Flickr could say, oh, you can see other people's photos and you can borrow them and remix them and show them back. And that made a lot more sense. Maybe 5 or 10 years ago, gosh, the inexorable march of time. I think these days, gosh, maybe the best way to talk about Git and version control might be something like TikTok to say, hey, somebody makes something and makes it available, and you can take that and remix it and make it available. It's not, yeah. So Synax saying this is a much better way to say it. Like it's a program to keep track of changes you make to files in a directory. So this is a really, really good way to describe it. Christina's helping me out here. Like, okay, so it's a way to keep track of multiple versions of things, as well as who contributed what to each version. Yeah, I've been looking for a really, really snappy, really effective way to describe what version control does and what Git does. But at the end of the day, it's about a place you can put code you've written, and the code you've written is going to show that you wrote it. Okay, so you get credit for your work. And other people can also access it and contribute it. Oh, actually, baking. But with some types of code, you can also go and look at their code if it's open source and say, hey, what's this project? What have they written? And sometimes you can contribute and remix it. Baking's really helping me out here. Like, no, 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 Jess, stop it. Let's think of Git as like a shared folder where you can keep various histories of files that you want to or you need to build a website. And you can manage, you can change those. Baking helpfully points out it allows for a separation of concerns. And Synac, this is the big thing, especially for new developers. It tracks changes. So while you're working by yourself on projects, the most effective thing that Git does is it gives you a chance to go back in time. So let's say your website looks really cool, you've got everything working, you just want to do a little tiny change. I'm trying to think what's a CSS change that could break everything. You want to make a little tiny change to how your CSS grid is arranged. And you're just going to do that and it's going to look great. And you do it and it breaks everything. Ah, but it's okay. You've been sending your code changes to a folder on Git via Git, and it means you can go back in time to say, "Hey, I want the last time I saved this. I want to go back." Oh, Abyss Walker's like, "I got you. I got you. Here's how we're going to describe Git." It's like a time machine for your projects. It helps you save your work at different stages. So if you make a mistake, you can go back to an earlier version and fix it. Oh, and because it's a time machine, you get sort of some sci-fi problems sometimes. It also allows for comparing differences in two versions of the same file. Let me try and recap all the different things that version control and here Git does for us. So one, lets you save your code as you change it. We're okay with that. Two, lets other people work on the same code at the same time and lets you see what code each person is saving. Does that feel fair? It lets you go back in time to past versions of your code. I love it. I love it. And this is something we're not gonna learn Git together today. We're just gonna take a look at some of the resources. But Git has a really interesting approach where you can take the code that everybody's working on and you can create your own branch. You say, hey, I want a copy of this and I want to work on that copy. So that if I break something over here, I'm not breaking it for anyone else. This is my mess. This is my precious mess that I'm gonna make. And then when you've made your changes, you can send it back to sort of the main branch. So branching. So it lets you create copies of the code you're working on in branches to let you work on things with lower risk. Yeah. So you're not changing it when you're using branch as well, you're not changing your whole code base. You're changing a little branch of it. You're making edits in a copy of this. Yeah. Thank you all very much. Oh, but, but, and, y'all go ahead and please check me any questions you've got about the things we've been working on as well. So I think I've already dropped this into the chat, but I'm going to drop it in again. Here is an ebook I really, really like about learning Git. So you may have heard folks say GitHub or GitLab or Bitbucket or, oh gosh, is there a European Git? Okay, we've got a question saying, hey, when's Etta going to appear and teach something? We've got Etta working double time. She's been on to teach before. We'll work on things. So yeah, there's a lot of different services for Git, but Git is the system itself. So GitLab, GitHub, Bitbucket, these are all kind of brand names for your generic Git, if that feels okay. Oh, that's the one I was looking for. Thank you, Sinek. And there's also Codeberg, which I always forget. Thank you. It's the European one. I really appreciate it. So this book, I'm always really, really excited about. Um, yeah, open data, shareable things. And one thing I really like about this book is they've published it. We talked briefly about licenses. They've published this in a Creative Commons license. That means, hey, it's free. Go ahead and take a look. Don't you dare sell pieces of this book. And if you want to buy a paper version of this book, it's a nice thing to do. So here, what's really cool is this version of the book has been updated with corrections or additions from hundreds of contributors who made these changes using Git. So here it's an ebook, it's completely free. And what I really like is They really talk you through what is version control and why should you care. Version control is a system that records changes to a file or a set of files over time so you can recall specific versions later. Huh, I'm furious because that is actually quite a good way to describe it. Oh, is this book from 2014? Hmm. Yes, I know what Git is. Stop that. So this is Git, the version control system itself. Yeah, it looks like the book. Yep, the second. Oh, I got you. I got you. So Baking was really helpfully asking, are you recommending a book from 2014? So the paper book was indeed published in 2014, but and we could look at this together. The digital version of the book. Oh, and this is cool. We can't see this a bit. Let me know when this is big enough where it's visible. There we go. So the digital version of this book, the one we're seeing on the web, is is managed using Git, using this GitHub repo. So here, the last time that the digital version of this book has been updated is 2 months ago. And this gives us a really interesting opportunity to look at what's going on here. So here, we've got the folders and the files that make up the book itself. So I'm going to come in and click on the book. Stunning. We've got the different sections of the book, and we can see last commit date, the last time somebody sent in new changes to these files that were accepted. So here, that sentence we've just read in introduction. This is the exact same as we're seeing. What is version control and why should you care? If we wanted to, we could fork this repository so we could create our own branch and edit this file and say, hey, I made a change. Do you want to keep this change? Yeah. So this is a really good example of how contributing to an open source project kind of works. So this is, come back to ProGit 2. So this is the repo. This is the sort of parent folder for everything in the book. And within this GitHub repo, the big folder that contains the whole project, we've got some issues. And issues are sort of like little problems or tiny pieces of work to say, hey, I have an issue that I'd like you to look at or to consider. Oh, sorry, Blink also has an issue that he'd like us to look at and consider. And I believe that that's because he thinks it's dinner time and it's not. So here we've got some recommendations. Someone saying, hey, I'd like to see this book localized into different languages. Or, hey, on page 49, this diagram is wrong. Gosh. So here, folks are saying, here's something that's a little bit broken, or here's something that could be a little bit better. Does anybody want to fix this? And because this repo, this book, which is in a big folder, because this is owned by someone, this is somebody's project, they get to choose. So they see an issue and they say, oh, I can say, yeah, if this is my repo, and it's most decidedly not, I can say, yeah, I would love to see work on this. Does anyone want to pick this up? Similarly, if you do make a change to this book and send it in, you can send that change back to them using a pull request. And these are changes, pieces of writing or links. Here we've got somebody added a change to the workflow. So these are changes to this big folder or the individual files in it that folks have made, and they want to send it and say, do you want this? Person who runs this repo? And a person who runs a repo is going to be called the maintainer. And I like that. It feels very much like a librarian, or they're the sort of janitor of this code. Someplace else, since we were just looking at GitHub or a project on GitHub, GitHub itself has a bunch of completely free courses to learn Git. Mostly GitHub, but GitHub is sort of a brand name for a type of Git. It's a way you can use this. Um, it is one way you can use Git as a version control system. They've got a really quick introduction to Git where we can start learning. But if you haven't used Git before, I really recommend, I'm just going to keep throwing you the projects. Oh, and baking makes a really solid point to say, hey, if you are making contributions, if you're doing little pieces of work for open source projects and they accept those, make sure that you include these in your resume. Yeah. Synack is really helpfully saying, I've been saying, hey, do you know what? GitHub, GitLab, Bitbucket are all sort of different brand names on top of Git, but Synack's really helpful in saying, just stop it. Git is the system, GitHub, GitLab, Bitbucket are implementations of the system, if that's a fair way to sum that up. And you're absolutely technically correct. I mean, you're absolutely correct. But for a lot of folks, getting started with GitHub if you're going to use it, or GitLab if you're going to use it, is not a bad way to do things. So these learning paths will get you started with how to use these, and it feels a lot like Free Code Camp. So, hey, we're going to give you an introduction to version control. We're going to ask you to watch a video, and here's what we hope you're going to learn. Oh, and they'll tell you what you need in a minute as well. So you'll need a GitHub account. You're going to need a basic familiarity with a command line interface. Let's get a command line interface tutorial. Yeah. And very helpfully, I've got someone who is fantastic passing me a couple more Git learning resources that she really likes. So we'll get there in just one second. So I cannot overstate how much I am politely agnostic. I don't have like none of the different Git services companies pay me any money. And even if they did, I probably still wouldn't have it very strong opinions. Similarly, GitLab, different kind of service and platform for Git, have tutorials. If you don't want to use GitHub or your boss is telling you to use GitLab, these might be a really good way to do these. And these are very specifically learn Git instead of learn GitLab, which I appreciate. Really, really helpfully. Oh, I bet y'all can guess who recommended this resource for me. What about a game? So, Oh My Git, I've seen this a while ago, but haven't come back to it, is a game you can download that lets you look how cute this is. Look how precious. I love her. I would fight for her. So this is a game that teaches you about how Git branching in Git is structured and it works. I absolutely love this. And if we wind up ending a little bit early today, this is probably what I'm going to do with my time. Yeah. And this game has an integrated terminal, sort of like a CLI right here. So you don't have, so you learn a little bit about using a terminal and Git at the same time. Similarly, we've got learngitbranching.js.org. Y'all would not be surprised that this is going to be another Edda recommendation, huh? And we're coming to the last of my Git resources I wanted to share. So if y'all have any questions at all, you drop them in here. Otherwise, I'm going to wrap up in a second and go play games. So here it's giving us a very computer vibed, hey, here's what we're going to do. We're going to learn about Git branching in a visual and an interactive way. And it also gives us some really, really nice introductions. So this feels very much like an old school video game, like, and mm, 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 they've also given us a really good way to describe what Git is. Git, a commit in Git, so when you commit, when you send in your code, records a snapshot of all the tracked files in that folder. It's like a giant copy and paste, but even better. Oh, I love that. I am just going to check to see if anyone has any questions for me before we look at one more project, one more repo on GitHub, and I will lovingly let you all go. I want to make sure that I'm not ignoring any of these questions, but at the same time, not keeping y'all if y'all are excited to have a chill afternoon. So, with the bootcamp, we've been working from the Free Code Camp curriculum on the Free Code Camp platform. So, their website, their learning materials. That's cool. Here is all of the code and all of the information that's in their platform. And I really like it because we're able to see the issues. So if you said, hey, here's something about this piece of text I just read, or here's something about the platform that feels a little weird, you can send in an issue to say, hey, this didn't work for me. This was weird. Oh, so here we've got somebody in the JavaScript certification course. The problem is a lesson. So all these little tags are giving us more information about what's going on. Oh, and we've got a status for each one. Either saying waiting for triage. So this is saying, hey, somebody from the Free Code Camp team is going to look at this and say, yeah, do it. Or, no, it's out of scope. We're not going to fix it. So these are really, really fun. I quite like these. I'd really recommend if you want to sort of think about the code for Free Code Camp, coming in and looking at. There's going to be a ton of stuff we don't understand yet. We've got Docker ignore files in here. Docker, the first thing I'll say is don't worry about Docker yet. The second thing I'll say is it's a system for putting the kind of setup you need for this project in a box so you can pull it out and use it quickly. I'm okay with that as an explanation. So here we've got a whole bunch of files, but we've also got some rules. So say, hey, if you want to contribute, if you want to make an open source contribution to Free Code Camp, here's a guide to do this. Yeah. Oh, there's a ton of things going on. Do you want to work on coding challenges? Do you want to do the content? Do you want to make a teeny tiny little fix? So here's sort of the rules. We're saying, hey, here's what we ask you to do before you make a little tiny fix. Oh, do you know what? I think this is a better way to say that. Thank you. Yeah, Docker we can think about as a sandboxing or virtual machine system. Thank you. Stunning. I am still not seeing any questions that we want to cover. So if it's quite all right, I'm going to go ahead and let you all go for the day. I'm not the boss of y'all. Y'all can stay in front of the computer for as long as you want, but I'm going to go check Discord. I'm going to go check my emails. I'm going to see if there's anything that I need to hop on. I massively, massively appreciate you all spending your time with me. Very excitingly, tomorrow and Friday, y'all are going to be learning with Carmen again, who isn't she great? Oof. Do you know what? I keep saying I can't give adults homework, but um, if you want to, and if it's not weird, if you have any kind feedback for Carmen tomorrow, have a think about something you might want to bring her to chat to her about tomorrow about her teaching or her approach. She's super nice. And if you have any feedback in general, you can find all of the contact details for us on the Bad Website Club and the Bad Website Club webpage. We've got an email address on there. Oh, the newsletter is different. Yeah. But thank you all so much for spending time with me. And this probably won't be the last time I talk to all of y'all, but this is the last stream for myself for the boot camp for the season. And I will look forward to chatting to you very, very soon when we get something else going. Thank you all very much and have the loveliest afternoon. Or if it's morning, I hope y'all have a fancy little coffee waiting. And if it's real late, y'all, it's time for bed. I'm going to hang up on you right now so you can get some sleep. Bye, team.